30 years, the North American Roller Hockey Championships have been providing the premier roller hockey tournaments in the sport. Thousands of teams from all over the world have competed in hundreds of events over the last 3 decades. The NARCh podcast showcases the great players, coaches, manufacturers, and rink owners that make the North American Roller Hockey Championships what it is today. We hope you enjoy the podcast and look forward to seeing you at a NARCh tournament very soon. And now to our host and the president of the North American Roller Hockey Championships, Daryn Goodwin.
How are you? Daryn Goodwin coming at you, NARCh president. Today we sit down with Jason Muro. Jason is a legend in the sport as a coach. He founded Black Ice Hockey, works at Rapid Fire Arena, and we're really excited to discuss a few old things and share some funny stories, but we also recap the Marple Sports Arena event that happened last weekend. So we hope you enjoy this, and let's jump right into it. Okay, excited about today. I am here with the guy who's been playing NARCh for well over 20 years. Not playing, coaching NARCh. He's probably got more NARCh cups than anybody. He's on an unbelievable run with his NARCh Pro team, Black Ice, which is also the program that he founded way back in the day. And, oh yeah, he runs a rink. He runs Rapid Fire Arena. Jason Muro, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, D? What's going on, buddy?
Glad to have you on here. I mean, originally we weren't even going to do a podcast this week, but after talking to you a little bit at Marple and having a really fun event, and the fact that we only go the East Coast really once this year, I thought it would be good to get you on here and do a quick podcast to kind of talk a little bit about Black Ice and the history of it, but to also touch on the regional that we just got done with. Man, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you, because we've got so much that we can talk about. But let's go back to maybe some of my first memories of you. And I might need you to correct me on some stuff, but I want to say you've been involved since what, about 01, 02 in terms of playing NARCh finals?
Yeah, 01 was the first final I went to, and we went to Florida in 01. That was the first one.
You had a really good 90s team, right? Was that your first platinum title?
That was the first teams we started bringing to NARCh was the 90s. I think in 02 we started bringing the 85s, which went like 2 or 3 years in a row. But the 90s were the first team to go and be like successful and like get out of the round robin and play in some semifinal games and stuff. They didn't win till 05, but they went in 01, 03, and 05. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of lines up with what I remember a little bit. That's a long time ago, man. That was, over 20 years ago. One thing I do remember that stands out in my head, and I think we even had a really brief discussion about it, 2010, we were in San Jose, and coincidentally, as soon as we're done with this podcast, I got to jump in a car and head up there. But it was your right here. You guys won this championship. That was 16U Platinum. And tell me about your experience with those guys in that division as you remember it.
Well, that was a mix of 93s and 94s. The year before, or 2 years before, we lost in overtime for the Pee Wee Platinum title to the OC Blades. So this was the first time that they won NARCh. We were lucky. We picked up a couple of California kids because a couple of our regulars couldn't go. George Brown actually helped us get a goalie. That's his goalie playing with us, and he used somebody else because our goalie couldn't go. Like I think Chavo was on that team, and Kozlo, and some of the guys that actually still play with me today. I haven't seen that, like a video clip of that in a long time, but that was it was a really good game. We had a real rivalry with the Rattlers. They were predominantly 94s, if I'm correct. I think maybe they had 1 or 2 93s, but they had a real short bench. Like they would play with like 5 guys. The 2 Renouf twins were exceptional roller hockey players. I haven't seen them in a lot of years. And, Yeah, it was always tough. We always battled with them both years. Like we do it with the 93s and 94s, and then we would do it with the 94s and 95s the following year. So yeah, we had a run with them over like a 2-3 year period.
So when you said you lost in the 14U, that must have been '08, the first time we ever went to San Jose. The OC Blades
Yes.
must have beat you there. Okay.
Yes, they beat us there. Yep.
And kind of worth noting, Kodiak's had a good squad. They ended up third that year that you saw the video. So rest in peace, Dave Fromm. He always put together good teams too. But
yes, he did. Frommer was good. We actually beat him 2 years later in 18 and under platinum when they were second year 18s. We played his Kodiak's team there with like Okada. I think JC Campagna was on it and stuff, and that was a really good game too. And yeah, Fromm will be missed. I mean, he's been out of the sport a little longer. I haven't seen him in a lot of years, but I always love talking hockey with him.
You know, I was thinking about you, Jay, the other day, and what makes you a little bit unique. Obviously, you're on a tremendous run here with your NARCh Pro team. Black Ice is known as, if not the best, one of the best for sure pro teams in the sport. But what makes you unique is you still coach a ton of youth teams too. And I don't think there's anybody else in the sport who's had success in pro and also, is it a regional qualifier with 6 different teams on the bench. And what cracks me up is like you talk to these kids the same way as you talk to some of your pro guys. And that's one of the things I love about you, like you punches.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure Live Barn doesn't get me banned from the sport eventually. But you know what it is like I enjoy coaching the youth as much as I enjoy coaching the pros because most of my pro guys, luckily for me, came through the program. Like a PJ DiMartino has been playing with me since he was 10 years old. So I just don't know what to do if I went to a tournament and I coached one team. I don't know what I would do if that was it. Like I love being in the trenches. I love my silver teams as much as I love my platinum teams. Like I don't know. It just to me it's all connected. And I don't sit there and think that for what I do for a living, I run a hockey rink. I've run a hockey rink my whole life. I've worked at a hockey rink my whole life. So that's. It's where it is. Like there is no pro team without your next 10 and under team because, I never put a thing like an age, like, oh, well, the time I'm this old, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to keep doing this as long as I can. And 2, as long as people still want to go and do it. It's just so much fun to me. Like, I love that. I just love the competition, regardless of what, skill level it is and what age it is, it's the same. Like, Kraft always laughs at me that, that I want to win 10 and under platinum as much as I want to win pro. Like he doesn't understand it, but he did understand it when he was 10 years old. So like, I just try to be fair and I try to give every team as much as me as I can. I'm not very quiet on the bench. I can't just sit there and run lines. Like I'm just someone that feels that people need to be held accountable for what they do on a hockey rink. And don't get me wrong, there are times I'm way overboard in the things I say. And a lot of things I say because, try to get people to laugh a little bit and calm down. But, it's accountability. Like there are plenty of pro teams that I could not coach. Like I could not go on their bench and be me because they would be like, screw this guy. I'm not listening to this guy because they don't get it. A lot of my guys, they get it because they've been doing it with me for 15 years now. Like they just get this is the way I am. And it's never personal. It's just in the moment. And we're trying to, there's nothing like winning with athletes. Like there's nothing like having people give you their trust and to spend their money to go somewhere and buy into what you're selling, and I'm always been so appreciative of that, of my guys, loyalty in this sport is not, it's not something that's all the way around. And I've been more than lucky with the group of people that I've coached. And that's what makes it special for me.
Well, I think you strike a balance. Trust me, that's part of the reason I love you at events. Like I crack up all the time on some of the shit you say, I'll be honest. But, if you lived in Southern California, you would have been canceled a long time ago, buddy. But I would have been canceled
before people got canceled. Like it just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how not to be the way I am. That's how, I grew up playing hockey and played for my dad. Like that's how he was, and, I just, I try to balance it a little bit, but that's all I can do.
Well, and I think you do draw, you do, for as much as you're loud and pointing out kids' mistakes, you also you also give them a lot of kudos, and you compliment them as well. I think the tough thing though that I find with younger, I don't know, just this generation of kids is, even though in your mind you're trying to balance out like the positive in what can be perceived as negative comments, a lot of people only hear the criticism, and they don't hear the wow, great job on that play. I mean, do you feel that's the case a lot, or do you really know your kids well enough that all right, well, this kid can take it, this kid can't take it, and I need to pump this kid's tires more? I guess it's just about knowing your players, right?
Well, you try to, but with the youth, you also want to know what kind of parents they have. You know what I'm saying? Like, some parents don't, are not with me the way I am. You know what I'm saying? So you go a little easier on some kids, just because I'm not, I've been doing this so long. You don't get rich doing this. Like, I'm not in the mood to argue with parents at the end of a roller hockey game. Like, it's something I rarely ever do. I tell people all the time, if you make a great play, you're going to hear me say that's a great play. And if you do something stupid out there, you're going to hear me just as loud saying, what are you doing? So I try to balance it like that. It is, I mean, it's a little tough, especially in today's age. You always get scared, someone's going to perceive something you said the wrong way. And I've been trying to work on that a little bit more for myself, just because I love doing this. I don't want anyone ever telling me I can't do it over something stupid. But again, I'm brash. I mean, to say the least. I mean, I don't want to. But like you said, a lot of things I say, I'm doing it to get a laugh. Like, there are referees that love being on my rink because they can't believe the crazy shit I say. So, it's all hand in hand. But at the end of the day, it's for a common goal, and it's just for us trying to be successful, and that's basically all I'm trying to do.
Well, your body of work speaks for itself. I mean, you've won so many titles. I was kind of hoping to see some NARCh cups and not coffee cups in the background, but you've probably got so many of them. You have a storage unit out back or something with them all in there, or do you let kids keep the cups? Where are all your NARCh cups?
Well, all my cups from anything, they're all at the rink. They're all displayed. Okay. I'll send you a picture later, but they're all there for the kids to see, because those are the ones that at the end of the day, made it happen. We have the way rapid fire is, we have a tier thing behind the office, and we got maybe 50, 60 cups up there of everything. And then there's more up top that we're just figuring out where to display. The newer ones we put on the counter, and some of the old stuff's there. But, I have a lot of guys that play at the rink now, and they're in their late 30s, and they won stuff with me in the past, and they like coming and seeing that stuff and showing their kids that, hey, dad won that, back in, 2000, whatever. So, but no, at my house, there is no trophy. There's not one trophy at my house whatsoever. Everything's at the rink. Gotcha.
All right, well, let's keep going here. Let's jump into something else memorable for me. I'm sure very memorable for you. Let's go right into your first pro championship in 2014 in Estero. Here we go. Here's footage from it. What a game, huh? That was... and how you got there was crazy. I think you were barely made the playoffs. I think you won the play-in game.
We were the 9th seed.
And the game I remember, besides this championship game, the game I remember, you played the Snipers early in the morning, and what must have been, I don't know if that was semis or quarters, but
that was the quarters.
That game was shocking to me, and I could be wrong, but I felt like either they took care of you easily in that tournament, or they had in the past. Like, it seems like you had a bunch of young kids, and the Snipers are a group that are older guys that those kids look up to, because a lot of them are from the same area. Is that a fair statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you play on Long Island, like, if you don't look up to a player like Greg Thompson, then you're not looking up to the right guy. Greg, and I think Mo was still on the team then. Like, I know they had a big St. Louis contingent of guys. Like, I know like O'Kane and Kramer and stuff were on the team, but they had some Long Island guys, but Greg is Greg's the pinnacle of Long Island roller hockey. Like when you look at if you look at somebody's, quote unquote career of playing, like I don't think anybody did it better than Greg, to be honest with you. Because, not only was he awesome, but he was modest. He never talks about himself. He's, if I've had the pleasure of coaching him, I actually, in 2010 and 12, I actually coached the Snipers. Me and Aaron coached the Snipers at NARCh because Timmy couldn't be there. So we lost the NARCh finals to the Mudcats with like a second left on the shorthanded one year, and then the next year we lost to Revision, who won in San Jose. I think we lost by a goal in that game in the semis. So, just having the pleasure of coaching someone like Greg, and he was someone that definitely I know my guys always looked up to, like my group in 92s and 95s, because he was the guy on Long Island. The game was, I think that was the first time we ever played him though in pro. Like we played pro the year before at NARCh in Canada. And that was probably the first time we ever played them in pro.
It was a really low-scoring game. I mean, that was, your goalie had a run of that was Machinsky, right? Like he had an unbelievable run that tournament, and I think it was like 1-0 almost the whole game. I don't know if you guys won 2-0 or 3-1, but it's a really low-scoring.
We won 2-0. What Chinny did that day, I've said to a million people, I've had this conversation for years and years now, that it's 10, 11 years ago, is no one will ever have a day that Chinny had that day. Like, it was just incredible. I mean, you wake up that morning and you're going down to the rink to play the Snipers because we won the play-in game 9-1 the night before. And then Chinny doesn't let up a goal till a minute left in the finals. And you're playing against the Snipers, who were the best team. You're playing against Next Gen in the semis, who's a phenomenal team, and then you're playing Revision in the finals, who had the pedigree of they've won 2 NARCh titles in the past. They're always in the middle of things, and to have your goalie give you all that time in the Next Gen game was even in overtime. Like I've gone back and watched that video, him making saves on Matt White and Chris Terry on the side of the power play, just throwing bombs at him. It was amazing. Like what he did that day is amazing. He probably should have stopped playing at the end of that day and just went out on the highest note ever. But I'm so glad that he never did, because we've got to win a lot more since then because of him.
Well, it's funny you say that. We got to do this again in the fall where we can really dive deep, because even those championships that you're talking about where you lost the last second, I got a lot to say about a lot of those games. Unfortunately, I limited time. I didn't pull that much footage for this, but let's go into something else from that year in 14 that you talked about. Let's.
I can never be more proud of the guys. I'll never forget this day. If I never win another game in the sport, today will my swan song. It's pretty good. It's just I couldn't believe it. So many of my guys are so young. We won a couple other divisions, and they played so great. But to do what we did today against the teams we had to face, which are all phenomenal teams and top talents, it's something else.
Yeah, that was crazy because you had some 18s on that team. And what did you?
A lot.
Did you win? Yeah, you won 18U. I want to say you won juniors too, but you didn't win D1, or was it the opposite?
No, we won 18s.
Yeah.
We won 18s. We took a bronze medal in D1. We lost to every revision mission guy that was D1, did like a combination team, and they beat us in the semis. No, what we joke about all the time is we didn't even get out of the round robin in juniors. We won one. We went 1-2-1, and we were out and didn't even. And we had a bomb squad in juniors, and we couldn't win a game. Like, it was hilarious. Like, we laugh so hard more now later in life than we did that day, but like we laugh all the time that we couldn't even get out of the round robin. Like it made no sense whatsoever.
So that audio that you heard, I saw you perk up a little bit listening to it. Seems like you're chuckling inside. That was 10 years ago, and obviously you guys have accomplished so much since then. How does that make you feel looking back on that?
It actually makes me happy. I really can't say it doesn't. I live a blessed life. Like I tell people every day that, I go to sleep and wake up and get to do everything again today that I did the day before. Like, everything about my life I love, and I have no excuses for it. And you know what, when you look back at something, because because again, like, you know, this is something I like doing in my leisure, but it's not just leisure because I do it every minute of every day. It's just when you look back at something and like it was just funny seeing Aaron, and you know, I'm 30 something in that video, not 48. Like it's pretty crazy. But to think that it's 10 years ago, that's the stuff that's even more crazy. Like, because like if you told me it was 4 years ago, I could believe it. But like 10 years, it's nuts. Like, where does the time go?
Yeah, his girls must be in high school, huh?
No, Aaron's girls are in one's in college, the other one's going to college.
Yeah.
And his little guy, Aaron's running like a travel deck hockey program for his kid to play because, you know, the kid loves playing deck hockey. So Aaron's away like every other weekend now, like me, except he's out doing the deck hockey and I'm still doing this.
Yeah, well, tell him I said hi when you see him.
Yeah, we're trying to get him to go to California. I don't know if he's going to go or not, but we're trying to get him to go.
Gotcha. I know you got two great sponsors. You know, Unify. Stephen at Unify is really, you know, you're kind of his premier program that he loves to plug, and Konixx Wheels as well. How did those relationships come about, and what's it like?
Well, the relationship with both of them are great. You know, I've always had a great relationship with all the sponsors that we've had through the years. I mean, we've gone through a few just for, you know, it's always transition in the sport and stuff like that. You know what it is with Campbell? I think it was during COVID. I think it was, he reached out to Kraft and said he wanted to do our jerseys. We just lost our mission deal because they don't really do what they used to do in the sport, and still waiting for the phone call for somebody to tell me we're not mission anymore. But that, you know, we just realized it when, you know, there was nobody to call anymore. He reached out to Kraft and I didn't get the memo yet. No, didn't come through.
Thought they sent it right to rapid fire. So anyway,
so he reached out to Kraft and he made us some jerseys, and we just been going with him ever since. I use them for, you know, my Pi-Ha stuff. I use them for, you know, all my youth teams and stuff. And you know, with Nick, it came through was, you know, we went through a couple of wheel sponsors, and you know, I'm kind of like, I just don't like going back. I just feel like, you know, I just didn't want to go back to something that we used already. And you know, Nick, over the last couple of years, we've become really close friends. He helps me when I come out there in the winter and the summer with getting guys. And we've done some combo teams together and had some success. So it really was just a no-brainer. And he's great with the guys. Like, my guys can contact him personally. He sends them what they need and stuff like that. I don't like really being involved in that end of the part of the sport. You know, I'm one of those guys that says we're adults. If you need wheels, just go buy wheels. Like, I'm just not the guy. I'm the worst guy to have in charge because I won't ask for free shit. Like, I just won't do it. Like, so, you know, he makes it very approachable. Yeah, he makes it very approachable for everybody, and they handle it. And, you know, no one has any problems. So that's all I care about. As long as the guys are happy and the sponsor's happy, you know, that's all I need right there. Because, you know, I don't want to ever say we're going to do something and then not do it, because it just makes you look bad. And I can't stand that. So, you know, I like that the guys can just deal with Nick. You know, I deal with Campbell all the time. I actually just spoke to him yesterday a couple of times about stuff. And, you know, I have no problems whatsoever. They're really great to me. And the really important thing is they're great to the guys in the program. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Well, Unify and Konixx, they're an important part of NARCh as well. I have a very similar relationship with them as you do. They come through when they say they're going to come through. They're good partners. So I'm glad that they're, you know, sponsors of yours and also good partners of mine. It gets a little weird when, like, someone's trying to backdoor a sponsorship to NARCh and kind of guerrilla market it, and, you know, puts me in a tough spot. So we don't need to spend too much time on that. Let's jump right into the Marple recap, because we've got quite a bit to talk about there. Start with the men's. Let's start with the men's division. We had 4 teams playing that. You guys, your young Black Ice team, as well as Hockey Mutt, you know, another young team that had some pro guys kind of sprinkled on it. And then we had the Assassins were in that division with, Ryan Marker was on that team. And then there's Merrigan sniping there with his Liberty guys, who were, you know, a little on the older side, but they were a legitimate platinum team back in the day. So pretty much a, you know, platinum division, I guess is what you would call it. Guys kind of filtered in and out through the weekend, though, with other stuff going on. I know Anthony had to miss Sunday with some personal stuff, but that's just a little footage. At the end of it, Black Ice, you guys, I know you weren't even on the bench for a lot of their games, but took care of business in a championship. There's Sammy Phillips, nice goal. That was probably not even, it definitely wasn't the nicest goal he had in that championship game. He's a hell of a player, huh?
Yeah, he is. He's very good. He's been with me now. This will probably be the third summer, playing multiple teams with me and stuff like that. And yeah, you know what it is he loves it. You give him something to do, he's on it. For whatever team it is, whether it's like this year, it's like junior D1, and he's playing on the young pro team with a bunch of his teammates and stuff like that from those teams. Yeah, he loves it, and he's phenomenal. Like he might actually want to win more than me, which is kind of crazy. He really gets into it, and he goes and he gets it. Like he gets that things cost money and entry fees are not free. Like he gets it, and it's that's what I like. I like that he gets it. He gets everybody on board to do what they need to do to get to these events and whatnot. And I'm very appreciative of that.
So let me ask you this: you've got a Black Ice 2.0, a lot of young guys kind of coming up through the ranks. At what point do you feel like there's going to be a transition in the sport? I mean, a lot of the guys that are the dominant guys in pro, they're not getting any younger. In fact, I think some have done a really, really good job of keeping themselves in shape and hanging on for as long as they have. But I feel like there's a transition coming. I don't know if it's, in 5 years, maybe half the division looks different. Do you think about that? What's your take on that?
Well, the one thing is, like you just said, like the fact that some of these top guys have been still top guys that can play 35 and over and stuff like that, and they're still top guys. That's what makes me feel like I don't know when that transition is coming, because so many guys are still so good, and they're on the other side of 35. Like makes me feel good because most of my guys are in there, they're all about 30 to 33. That I'm like, maybe we can squeeze another 5 years out of this, like everybody else. You know what it is? It's just about having somebody that can put it together and get it. Like I'm doing the second team because I have all these junior kids, I have all these 18s, all these D1 guys, and they're all really good. And some of them have filled in on my main team in certain tournaments and events when we're short. I don't want them playing for somebody else. Like I don't want guys playing junior and D1 for me, but playing pro for somebody else. So I'm like, well, why don't we just play pro? Like, well, I mean, to me, it just makes sense, and it's kind of grooming them in, both teams are going to be separate entities in the way that I don't really think we're going to share players too much unless it's like a winter event or something. But I just wanted to give them somewhere that they could play and somewhere that it could be, where they're comfortable. And most of these guys, if they're going to play on a top team and whatnot, they're not going to get a lot of reps in. Like they're not going to get a lot of shifts and stuff like that. Here, they can grow through pain. They can go out there and still, they can cost your team a goal or do something bonehead out there, and they're still going to have to go back out there. It's not like one of those instances where if they were on my other team, one of my guys are going to get in my ear like, yo, you can't put this kid back on the rink or something like that, So, I think it's more beneficial for them to, be able to go out there and not be a little bit more relaxed. Going in, I know we're going to make mistakes. I know we're not going to, just rip and, beat a top team in the second game we play ever, but it's building towards getting to that. Because like you said, like when we did it in 2014, it's like the guys just changed that day. Like all of a sudden, teams I could never believe we could beat, all of a sudden the next time we're playing them, we beat them again. Like that was crazy to me. So, it will happen for them too. And I like the fact that most of them are getting in very young. Like Adam DeLuca, who's a first year 18 and under player, playing pro at 17 years old, that's something, that's something that, is going to just help his game, with the other divisions because he has so many years of it. Like he's going to play D1 for 10 years. Like that's crazy.
That is crazy to think about. I just thought about something else. I was listening to Joe Rogan on the way home from the rink last night, and we're talking young versus old. Who do you got, Tyson or Jake Paul? Or are you into that? Like I'm sure you want Tyson to shit kick him.
I'm
but
not
maybe I'm
all
wrong.
into it, but I'm on. I'd like to see Mike Tyson win that. Just Tyson growing up, like I remember, my dad having people over when Tyson fought and stuff, and I remember being so upset when he lost to Buster Douglas. Like I can remember that night, like it was yesterday. So I'd like Tyson to knock the guy out, and I've seen some of the things with him training. Like I wouldn't want him knocking on the door looking for me. I'll tell you that. So that's about it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. A bunch of young people don't realize, like you back in the day, right when kind of pay-per-view started, some of it was on HBO, but like almost every one of his fights, it's over in the first round. Like it's like
he was an event. He was a spectacle. You wanted to watch him fight because you knew you were going to kill the guy.
You order pizza
awesome.
and a beer, and fight's over before it comes. So anyway, let's keep going here. 18U division. This was, you had the Black Ice Black team, which is some of the stud 18s that you talk about. You also had a purple team, which was your 16s playing up. Alkali White, same thing. They had a 16U team playing up, very talented team. Who else we had? We had the Impact playing in that, and Outlaws Red. So it was really, three teams. In my mind, Black should have beat everybody. And you said early on, hey, I think my 16s are going to beat my 18s, which you were right about. But how that division kind of set up is Black had already won enough to get to the championship game, and that's when they played your purple team. They had beat your 18s. The Black team had beat Alkali White, and the red team, or the purple team, had lost to Alkali White. So the purple team had to beat the Black team to make it to the championship game. So you had a situation where younger brothers are playing older brothers, so to speak, and they had to win the game, and they did. They did win that game, so it was an all Black Ice championship game. And then once we got to that championship game, the older guys took care of them. That was a mouthful, but that's how it kind of went.
Yeah, I didn't coach either one of those. I didn't coach either one of those games. I was on the other rink when they played each other twice. I didn't do it. I think I had I had Dom's dad on the bench with the Black team, and then Jack's dad on the bench with the purples and stuff. But yeah, it was a fun division. My 16s have been, they always play two divisions at all these events, and they always, do pretty well against the older teams. Sometimes Standard and Dom play with them, but here I'm just trying to, get a bunch of the guys that's supposed to be going away in the summer with me together, a little bit, before we go. Yeah, I thought the game could go either way. I've been blessed. My 16s are really good too. I have a lot of good 07s. But I wasn't surprised that I wasn't surprised that the older guys won, just because, they got a couple of real studs on there, like guys that skate. They're very physical and stuff. So, just the way it went.
Well, what's funny is I'm watching this championship game in 18U, and at the same time, your 10U game's going on the other rink, which is why you weren't even, you didn't see any of this live. Well, you saw that. That was actually when the purple team beat the Black team. But I'm in the penalty box of the red rink, and it's, for those who don't know Marple, it's a 2-rink facility, and there's, a big snack bar and a lot of area in between. And I'm talking to one of the guys on the bench. I'm like, do you hear that? He goes, what do you mean, Jason? I go, yeah. So we're on the one bench and completely on the opposite side of the rink. The only thing we can hear is your voice as you were in a really heated 10U battle that we'll get into. But let's show after that 10U, because both games, that actually went to overtime, the 10U. And I left the 18U to go check out the end of that game. And both games, because of the overtime, ended at the exact same time. So little chaotic. So we had the 18s come over, take a photo, and we got a cool group photo of the whole of your 10s and both 18s. And actually had to do this photo a few times because you weren't in the photo originally, and then you jump back into it, which I appreciate. But pretty cool to have a photo like that of a bunch of kids that you touched their lives.
Yeah, I like when we're able to do photos like this. A couple of times this year, I had 14 on the team. We broke up into 2, and we, got to play each other in the finals, and they do that. Yeah, I like that.
So for that second 18U championship, the gold one, how that set up is Impact had to play the Alkali Red team, the Outlaws Red, and whoever won that game would advance to the championship to play the Alkali Outlaws White team. Again, 2 rinks, a lot of stuff going on. I think there was another championship going to overtime. I'm watching that Outlaw game with the Red team, and they're down a goal with I don't know, a minute and a half, something like that. So I run to the other rink, and then I come back, and turns out they tied the game. Then they were smart enough to pull the goalie because they knew they needed the win. Otherwise, they weren't going to make it to the championship game. So they ended up scoring with an empty, with no goalie, with the extra attacker, which is what put them into the championship game against Alkali White. At the end of the day, though, those 3 teams we talked about, the Alkali Outlaws White, they're better than the Outlaws. They're better than the Red team, and they didn't have much of a problem with that gold championship. There you go. Yeah, there's a couple studs on that team. I was talking to a couple of them. I mean, probably most notable, Chase Gaffin, Braxton Jester, and Jaden Golden. Even Aaron McVeigh's a good player. I mean, the whole team's pretty solid, and they're very young. They had mentioned they might play with you in California. Is that just hearsay, or is that going to happen, or you just don't know?
No, I'm trying with the 16 Plat team. I know I have 4, maybe 5 guys of mine going out there. So I've used chasing them in the past. And I asked his dad, you got 2 or 3 kids that want to go. So we're just working all that out right now.
Well, I'm excited to see whoever you bring play Boyarski's Outcast 07s. They're really solid too. So I think, watching the kids out there play last weekend at Marple and seeing what I saw a couple weeks ago in Irvine, I think that's going to be a great game. And there'll be some other 16Us in the mix that we're not even talking about. But just in my head of the recency test, it's going to be good. The finals are going to be good. That division's always tough to win, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, Nick has a good 07 team. We've actually never had to play them, so that's why we're trying to go out there. And if we go out there with a good team, we're gonna probably run into him somewhere along the line. But yeah, they're probably the best team out west, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully we can pull it together and get out there.
All right, let's keep moving. Let's talk about 16U. 16U had 10 teams. It was a pretty big division. Honestly, I wish it had 12 so we could have split it into 4, 4, and 4 because there truly were kind of 3 levels of teams in this. We keep talking about the same 2. The 2 teams that played midget would be the 2 teams that ended up in the championship, and that's the Outlaws White and your purple team. Outlaws White kind of had their number. They beat them in the prelims, and then they beat them in the championship. So kudos to those guys. I think the picture is almost, I don't know, I could have even got the picture confused because it's basically the same group of kids. But, yeah, there you go. Only difference is Chase is looking at us. Who's that? I don't know. I need to put my glasses on. But anyway, it's the same group of kids. Moving on, 18U Gold. 18U Gold, if I remember right, Steel City was in the championship. Who did they play? I got a couple notes here I got to look at.
You mean 16?
16. Did I say 18s?
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. So 16 Golds, it was 2 teams that played 18s too, and it was the reverse of what happened to make that 18U Gold championship game, and the Outlaws Red took care of that champion impact game. That was for 16U. 16U Gold.
All right. Dave's doing a great job with that program. He just keeps getting more and more kids and more teams. His program's gigantic now, and he's got a lot of good teams.
Yeah, for sure. Because I only see them once a year. So every time I come out, it's like, wow, they're better than they were the prior year, and they got more teams than they did before. So it's pretty obvious to me as because I only see them once a year. You probably see them, 4, 5, 6 times a year, but they're in your face all the time. Moving on, let's talk about 14U. This is our biggest youth division. We did have 12 teams, so we were able to break it up into 3 different levels. Viper Snipers, boom, there you go, overtime game winner. Look how unpleasant the sniper kids look. They just weren't happy. But great game. Vipers won that. They deserved it. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, no one's ever happy when they lose in overtime. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to jump up and down. Yeah, that kind of surprised me. I didn't realize the Vipers had that strong of a 14 and under team. And that sniper group of kids, I haven't seen them in a while. They don't, they're a lot of ice kids. I see a couple of them. One of the kids has been playing with me, pretty much every weekend just because they can't get together and stuff. So I was a little surprised. Alex, the goalie on the Vipers, he played phenomenal in that final game. So I was a little surprised, but I walked over and then as soon as I got to the glass, they scored the goal in overtime and it was over.
Yeah, I was even late to hit record. Like I barely got the goal. So I was right there with you in terms of that. 14U Gold, we had Still City played that Hollydale team, and Still City ended up winning that game. So congrats to those guys. That was a pretty solid game too. I think it was a 2-0 game if I remember right. There's just so much going on a Sunday afternoon, especially when you're running into overtimes, which we'll get to some more of them. It's like you just can't see everything because there's good games going on both rinks. But happy for those guys to take gold back to Pittsburgh. And then straight to silver, Patriots. Virginia Patriots beat the Iska Grizzlies for the silver championship. So, again, 12 teams, 3 truly different levels. Once you get into play, once it's broken down, even though the division starts as 1, as you get into, the semis for that and the championships, they're all pretty close game. This one wasn't that close, but, a lot of the others were. Patriots were just better. I know the Grizzlies won a little bit closer game to put themselves in position to be in that championship. But let's just touch on the Grizzlies real quick. I mean, it's the first time I've seen them for a long, long time. I mean, Dennis Jelsik's been around. I've known that guy for as long as I've known you. And then he kind of, at least from the NARCh scene, he disappeared for a long time. But, way, way back in the day, those Grizzly teams with with JJ Facto and with Soli and who else? Who am I missing? Like Thomas Stahl. Like they had some good teams back in the day. You had to have some good rivalries.
It was like the Fultons and Mongo played with them, and then it was Sean Sullivan, JJ Fitcher. Like those guys were. He used to go all the time. So with the older teams and stuff. But I think he has a couple of guys at the rink that are doing the program now because I don't think Dennis was on the bench for too many things. I think he's just kind of like overseeing it. But, I'm at his rink a couple of times a month. I play in this travel deck league and all our games are at his rink. So we see him on a Sunday and, his youth starting to pick up at the rink and, you got a couple dads that are interested in doing tournaments and then, it goes from having no teams to all of a sudden you have 4 or 5 teams again. So I'm happy for him. I know he misses going to these things and stuff, but I know he doesn't have the time to, do it himself like he used to. So I'm glad he found some guys that will carry the banner for him.
Yeah, and they were really good guys too. I feel bad I don't remember their names, but they were professional and seemed to really enjoy themselves. I think a minute ago I said JJ Facto. I don't know. I meant JJ Fisher, but Facto is a kid from Atlanta. He's probably. Yeah, 21 now probably or something like that. He was a stud too, but anyway, not sure how he came to my mind. All right, 12U division. Whoever had to face the 2 best teams, I mean, you and I talked about it a little bit. You had a really close game with the Vipers. One of the best games of the tournament, one of the best comebacks of the tournament. You came back and beat them 8-7 and just a goal frenzy fest. I think you were down 1 or 2 at the end of that game. Next thing you know, you end up winning it.
Yeah, we were down 2. I didn't realize when I went in the locker room I should have been mad at the kids for coming back than happy. But no, it was a ridiculous comeback. We were down 4-0. So 2 of the kids came through the back door from the other rink. They had the 2 10s playing up, and my other coach is trying to tie their skates, and I'm sitting there like, yo, don't even bother. We're going to be mercy the time you get their skates on. And the next thing you know, we're back in the game. So it's actually pretty crazy.
So the two best teams in that division were easily the top Gladiator, Marple Gladiator team and the Get Saucy team. And, Snipers had to play Get Saucy in the one semifinal. You had to play the Gladiators in the other semifinal. What is this? Oh, this is actually the championship. All right, well, let's go straight to the championship. Great game, goes to overtime. There's your overtime game winner between the Gladiators and Get Saucy. That was a back-and-forth game. That kid is a man-child. I mean, look at the kids having to tap him on the head. They got to reach up the full way. What's his name? Is it Cole? I think that's Cole Ray. But, yeah, they're good 12.
I think number 10 is Cole Ray, yeah. I don't see them too much. I mean, they played a lot this year so far, but they're big ice hockey guys, and they're good. Like their team is by far the best 12 and under team in this area. I mean, I've played them twice, and I think I've lost 8-0 both times. And I think the last tournament they played before that, they mercied somebody else in the finals. So yeah, they're no joke. And that Get Saucy team's good too. They got some guys that can play on that team also. So.
Well, I would love, we were talking, and again, they're big ice kids, but, in my mind, I see these good teams from different areas, and I match things up in my head, and I would love to see them out in California playing against the best teams out here where, it's like it used to be where you truly got all the best teams, but I know ice hockey is a different animal now. But I could still think about it, and they talk about coming, but hopefully they will sometime sooner than later because, against some of the good 12U teams out here, they'd be great matchups. And your team that, not taking anything away from your team that played them in the semi, you had a bunch of 10s on that team too.
Well, we had a bunch of 10s, but we had a bunch of 10s, but we're also ridiculously small on top of it. So even the kids that, we only have one second-year kid on the team, but even the kids that are supposed to remotely look like they're in the same division as the team we're playing against don't. We're really, really small. Yeah, they're good. I mean, they just move the puck, and those two big kids shoot hard. They have a girl on defense that just, bodies up. She reminds me of, Rasmussen used to play on the OC Blades 89 team. There's this big girl on D that just D's up. You can't get around her, and then she gets the puck and moves it up to those two killers, and they go down and score. They got a good recipe for success over there, But again, you don't really see them outside of the area too much. They just, a lot of these PA kids, that with the ice hockey, well, a lot of the ice kids in general, they don't want to travel. They don't want to spend money to travel because they're spending money to travel so many other weekends during the year. And that unfortunately, it hurts roller because they don't go to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest kid on your team in the 12s is actually a 10U that we'll get to here in a few minutes, actually really soon. But It's funny with the girls. That's about the age where it transitions. And I know. I wish I had her name, but I know exactly who you're talking about because I watched her all weekend. At the younger ages, the girls, because they get that extra year, a lot of times, they just mature quicker. They're bigger. In some cases, they're stronger. They get to benefit from that year for a number of years. And then, as you're about this age, 13, 12 to 14, depending on who you are, it's you see that transition where it's all right, boys hit puberty. The girls can still hang. A lot of the best ones can hang till they're 16, sometimes even 18. But, that's kind of where you have that transition. But anyway,
yeah, I watched her play too. I think she's really good. I think she'll be fine, for years to come playing. She positionally is very sound, and that's, that's something you can't teach all the time. Sometimes you just have to know what you're doing out there.
For sure. Okay, let's jump to 12U Silver. Two programs. We talk about the whole tournament here because they had a bunch of teams. So Vipers defeated the Outlaws White. This is the end of the game. The goalie, Hannah, there stood on her head at the end. There was a ton of pressure. Hannah Subascan, something like that. I'm not quite sure, but she kind of won it for him at the end here. So congrats to the Vipers for winning that division. They were pumped, as they should be.
Yeah, she's a good goalie. I've used her once or twice in the past at Marple. She's very good.
Big, moves well, good with angles. So all the things you want in a goalie, right?
Yeah.
All right, Tinyu, we're getting there here. Let's jump to silver first. We had Snipers and Outlaws Red. That was a absolute shootout with 15 total goals scored. I don't think it was an overtime. Right before it was the end of the game, though. Here's your game winner. It's a nice shot. Boom. Yeah, he scored a few. You can tell by the Sully.
In that game, he did.
Yeah. Big kids, big saves. Snipers came out on top here. Snipers do a good job with younger teams. I mean, I know you probably got a pretty good rivalry with where you're from, but it seems like, as we'll get into, they did. Whoops.
Sorry.
You didn't like what I was going with the Snipers or what?
Well,
you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So Snipers won that championship. Let's get to to me, it was one of the more memorable points of the tournament. I already touched on it. I was on the one rink watching 18U Platt championship between your two teams battle out. You were screaming your lungs out on the 10U bench. That was a great game. You played the Outlaws white team, and you called a timeout. This is coming out of your timeout. You were up a goal. And that's your tying goal. I was next to the Black Ice mom. She was, I'm not going to lie, she was kind of going batshit crazy a little bit, talking about how it was definitely not a goal, which, as you can see there, what a tough call. And, the referees didn't have the advantage of watching it in slow motion. And, originally they called a goal. There's no way you can overturn. I mean, they did a really good job. That was Sloan and Sassaman ref in that game, and they got together afterwards. They discussed it. I honestly thought they were going to overturn it because of all the people banging on the glass, screaming no goal. You guys probably had some choice things to say from the bench as well, but they called it a goal. The game went to overtime, and as you can see from that footage, I think it was the right call. I don't think you can't overturn that.
I still think it's high. I mean, it's close. You can make an argument either way. Now that I saw the video that you showed me, I wasn't as mad because it was right. Like, it was really so close. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Well, like calls like that, if it's already called a goal, and then they talk about it, it would, and we're not looking at video review, but, it has to be, you have to have a referee that goes, no, that was 100% high stick. And that obviously was so close. It would have been, I mean, you could take that footage to Toronto and it probably would have been the same result. So,
yeah, if you asked
it is what it is.
You probably get 50 and 50 with it. So after you showed me the video, I wasn't as aggravated as I was earlier. So I didn't realize it was that close. I mean, but thank God it worked out after that.
Yeah, no, it was great. And the game ended up going to overtime. You guys end up pulling it out in overtime. I forget his name, but who helps you coach that team? He's got a job, maybe two. I'm sorry?
Danny DeCharo. His daughter plays on that team, and then his boy plays on the 14s.
She's phenomenal. She's a really, really good player. Like I was impressed all weekend with her, and I've seen her in past tournaments too. But you two guys, like, usually you run the show on your bench, and I'm not saying you don't with that team, but watching you two and like the hands are going and everything's going, and it's like dueling pianos on the bench there because he's not at a loss for words either. It's entertaining to watch, especially in a game like that.
Yeah, whoever thought I'd be the good cop on that bench? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
No, I have a great relationship with Danny. Danny's one of the reasons over the last 3 or 4 years with the resurgence of the quality of my youth teams. Like he is an ice hockey coach. He runs one of the Royal teams, and he has brought so many players to roller hockey for me. It's not even funny. And my youth teams wouldn't be anywhere near as good as they are if it wasn't for Danny. And he's actually a really good coach. He's a He's a really good player. He beat the shit out of my team last night in a 40 and over game, and I think he lit us up for like 9 points. So, and I'm gonna have to listen to that the next time I see him. But yeah, the one thing I like about Danny, and I don't know if everyone likes this about him, is he's really no nonsense. Like, he'll bench his own kid, but like he will, some of those decisions that I'm a little like on the fence with, like we got to sneak this kid out here for another shift and stuff like that. Yeah, he reminds me there is no sneaking. The kid's not going back out. We're playing these kids, and kind of like the old mindset Teddy Matos had when I used to coach with him with the 92s back in the day. And if we win, everyone will be happy, and if we lose, no one's going to say anything to him because he can kick their ass. So I got to take all the brunt of all that. But whatever, whatever it is, it is.
Yeah, no, it's. I just thought it was funny because usually you're running benches solo, and it's like, man, these two guys, what a tandem! Like, it's, I don't know, the kids have a bad game, their ears are probably going to be bleeding all the way to the locker room. But let's go to that. Let's go to the overtime game winner. Stevie, can you pull that up? Here we go. That's the kid that plays tens too. That's an absolute stud. What's his name again?
James. He's really, really good. It's only the second time he's played with us. I mean, the second time he ever played roller hockey. Funny story, he's actually wearing Derek Kern's old skates. Derek is friends with his parents through ice hockey, and I think maybe Derek played with the dad. So those are Derek's old skates because he never owned a pair of roller skates, and that's rollerblades, and that's the second time he ever played. And he's a big ice kid, like the brick team and all that stuff that you could do at that age is whatever you could make at that age, that kid makes it. He lives in Staten Island. Yeah, I'm hoping that I know he likes doing it. I just hope that his schedule makes it available where he can actually come to more stuff. He's really good, and he'll even get better with the more he played. Like, that was the 8th roller hockey game he ever played.
Well, when you say Derek skates, it's probably Derek skates from 2 years ago, and that kid's 10U. But we'll leave that alone a little bit.
Whatever. I mean, I'm just saying that Derek's old pair of skates he gave him because the guy didn't have skates to play. So
I'm just busting balls. Derek's one of my favorite guys, favorite players. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it there this weekend. You talk about a guy who's on the smaller side that plays like a big guy. Derek always did that in NARCh growing up, and it's great to see his wife involved and helping organize and the kids playing. It's happy that Derek's all in with NARCh roller hockey in general, and I'm going to actually get to see him in a couple weeks in Spain. So I'm sure I'll pull this up and show him. It's probably my computer going nuts here. All right, so what do we got left? We just have 8s and 10s, I think.
8s and 6s.
8s and 6s. Sorry, just did 10s. All right, 8s. It's the same story with both of these divisions. They were 3-team divisions. We had Vipers, we had Gladiators, we had Snipers. The cool thing about both of them, the games were all competitive. That's what sucks, especially with the youngest ages, is when you have one team that just absolutely steamrolls the other two. That wasn't the case, really, with either one of these divisions. Let's go to Snipers ended up playing. So Vipers Gladiators had the 2-3 game, and that was a really close game. The Vipers pulled out 5-4 against the Gladiators. So Vipers would play the Snipers in the championship game for 8U. Snipers came out on top for that. There you go. There's your team photo. I think I was on the other rink watching the 16U championship. I was bouncing back and forth. The tough thing about the blue rink is once you are in the penalty box, you're kind of locked in. So it's tough to keep moving if you just want to catch part of the game. But congrats to Mission La Beta Snipers there on winning the 8U championship. They've got a good group. They're going to be around for a while. And let's finish it off with 6U. 6U, each team in 6U had beat the other team. So, they had all beat each other. Then you had Snipers who had to play the Gladiators in the 2-3 game. They ended up beating them, and then they play the Vipers again for the championship game. So, and they took care of business again here. This kid's a stud. He definitely the most dominant kid on that team. I don't know if you know him, but congrats to those guys. Yeah. good division. It's good to have a bunch of teams that are very competitive with each other. It brings up the whole area, especially, and for the parents and everything. It sucks to be on either side of that. If you're crushing teams every time you play in a tournament or you're getting blown out every time, it's no fun. But all right, that was a mouthful, but we covered what happened at Marple for the most part. Hopefully people that were in the event get to watch, appreciate what we did there. I hope they do, because it takes a shit ton of time to go through all this stuff. But appreciate you helping narrate it for me, too. Couple of things I have before I leave you, just questions for you. And we could keep going if there's other things you wanna bring up or talk about, but I just had a couple notes here. And, I don't know if you can you never really worry about being politically correct anyway. So if you had to build a pro team, and we're talking a younger kid, let's say an 03 or younger, who would you build your team around? Or who would be the foundation piece that you can't miss?
Well, I guess for me, I would be most, the guys that I'm using now, the Sammy Phillips, the Austin Sabosleys, stuff like that. Someone that doesn't kind of play for me. He's played for me. I've used him. He played at Winter Nationals with me out in Cali, but that kid Jace is Sambro, if I'm saying his last name correctly. Hopefully I am. He's an 05. He's very good too. I would say, a lot of the guys that I'm doing it with, because that's who I believe are those are the kids that are, doing well in juniors and D1. So to me, those are the guys you kind of want to, get locked down and start doing this stuff with. There's a couple of kids I don't know. Last summer when we were at NARCh, we played a lot of those Rocket teams from San Diego. What is it? The Rocket Puck? What are they called? The Rockets.
Rockets, Pat Martinez. Yeah. Put together good teams.
They got some kids that are just awesome, and I know some of them are going to probably be in the NHL and stuff like that. But there's 4 or 5 of those kids through their teams that are incredible. There's these, and they're monsters. Like, they're just gigantic. Like, they're, some of them are more than welcome to play if they want to play pro. They got some really good guys.
Yeah, I think 2 of them will probably be, I know one's going to go at some point in the first round. Another one probably be a second, third rounder. There's a lot, and it's funny you say that, because there's a lot of kids that are so heavy in the ice and so good on the ice, but they still love to play roller. Like, a lot of them, Irvine Regional's kind of a coming out party. They ice is over. They're back in town. They play in that. Someone will play in Escondido. They'll play in the NARCh finals. But that's it. That's like their roller hockey window. So, when people around the country, think about some of the best players, you get to see them. You just brought them up, but they're not even on the radar of a lot of people who consider themselves, to be in the know with what's going on in roller hockey. So you're right. Those kids are all, they're all playing very, very high level ice, but they love to play roller. They played it when they were younger. They still try to play as much as possible, but you're not going to see them at tours. You're not going to see them at state wars, but they're great players. So as I just went long-winded there, you kind of dodged the question. I asked for one guy. You gave me the politically correct answer, even though we talked about that. Is it just that you just don't know? They're young and, they're all good. So it's hard to pick one guy. Is that?
Well, I would say it's definitely hard to pick one guy, because it all depends what you're looking for. Who's a forward, who's a defenseman, who can play both, what skill set they bring to the game. Even if you ask me, like, current pro guys, like, who would be your first guy that you want to build the team around? Like, you could ask 20 guys and get 20 different answers. It all depends. Like, something I might like in a player, you might not like in a player. Like, so it's, or as much as I like, it's tough to say, just because there's just so many good players out there. I'm quite happy with the 5 or 6 base guys that I'm involved with on that team right now. I don't really think I could do much better than, the 5 or 6 guys that I have.
Fair enough. Valid point. Maybe it wasn't the best question, because there's not one kid that's just head and shoulders above everybody else. Last thing I'm going to leave you with. This is, I don't know, a little bit of a weird one, but we always get in these conversations like, was the sport better back in the heyday? And you're starting to see a bunch of stuff from, RHI and Pro Beach, and people are like, oh, it was so great when that happened. And I played in those leagues, and yeah, there were some awesome components to it, but there was also some things that a lot of people don't know that weren't that great. That's going back a little bit further than what I wanted to talk to you about. Do you feel like the sport, if you could take the sport 10 years ago, where it's at now, or 10 years from now, like what do you think? Do you think the sport's better now than it was 10 years ago, or it's not? And if it's not, what did you like then that you don't like now, or vice versa?
Wow, we probably could talk for 3 days about this. There's a lot of different things, being part of the industry in the realm of running a roller hockey facility. There are a lot of things better about the sport now, and there's a lot of things that are not better. I think the fact that there aren't more roller hockey facilities around, and I mean, you've been around longer than I have. I mean, almost every rink I've worked at on Long Island is closed outside of one that I worked at that's still open. Like through the years, Feasterville closed down, Hot Shots closed down, Huntington Beach closed down, Joe Dumars have closed down, and name, and so many others, or they've converted a roller rink into something else that's more profitable, like turf or something like that. It's there's some areas where people can't play, like Hot Shots closing down. I got kids out there that play for me. They drive an hour and a half to play in a Tuesday night rec league. Like the rink that was 10 minutes from their house now is gone. So it's tough. I mean, running a roller hockey facility is not easy. My rink is very simple. It's one rink. We don't make money from anything else other than on the rink. And, it's tough now because all sports are year round. Like when I first started doing this, I didn't deal with ice hockey back in 1999 the way I deal with ice hockey now. Back in the day, there was 2 ice hockey programs. They were AAA, and if you were really good, you played on it. Now there's 17 ice hockey programs. There's like single A tier 3. Everyone's paying all this money. Everyone's going all these places. And 1, they don't have the money to do roller. 2, they're not available to do it because they're not even around. So, I mean, at least by us, like the number of ice hockey programs and the different skill levels they offer, that is definitely changed more than it was back in the day. But there's a million things that have. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's your statement. There it's universal. It's the same thing in California. I mean, I see kids not happy with the local program, and they're playing, double B, driving an hour and a half 2 ways to play ice hockey. And again, we can, not to completely shit on ice hockey. I think I play more ice hockey than I do roller, but I think it does go both ways a little bit. You mentioned the kid a few screens back, how the play 10s and 12s for you, and the fact that he's an animal. We do get some influx of those ice kids, but it's in small doses. They're not 100% committed. Didn't mean to cut you off, but I agree with your statement.
Well, for me, I agree with that, but I'm talking about the silver or gold roller hockey player that now can barely play roller, like be available to play roller because they're doing all this ice. I'm not talking about the upper echelon AAA kids that, I'm not really speaking about that. It's just like anything else. Someone will always take your money. Someone will always take your money if you're willing to spend it and go play. It's about the commitment. Like the one thing about what I do at Black Ice is you pay for what you come to. Like you don't pay for practice if your kid's not at practice. You don't pay for a tournament if your kid's not at a tournament. That cost is divided by the people that are there. And I have, when I run practice, it's the same 8 kids every week, and I have 40 something kids that play on Long Island with me. There's 8 kids that come every week, and there's kids that never come to practice. So, I mean, it's just different. But all sports are year round. No one wants someone that's paying them money to give money to someone else for a 3 or 4 month window Now it's like that guy's hooked in, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, and it's all like we go inside in the winter, we do this. Like everyone finds a way to not lose that income coming in because they don't understand that behind the curtain, someone is making money. Like behind that curtain, when you guys are writing $4,000 or $5,000 ice hockey checks, that that's going to somebody. Someone is making money doing that, or that's paying for some good kid to go play on a AAA team that can't afford it. So I'm always very, very adamant with that with people. Like, listen, I like ice hockey. Like, I'm not saying don't play ice hockey, but like when you're playing ice hockey, if you're not playing AAA, the level of commitment that they want from you for these other levels, to me, is just utterly ridiculous. Like, utterly ridiculous. If you're playing single A ice hockey, you don't have to practice 3 times a week. Like, stop.
You're right. We could go on and on with this all day long. So I guess to circle back around, you feel like, that's obviously a frustration you have in the sport now that didn't exist 10 years ago. But what I will say is tournaments are full. Like, there are less rinks. There probably are there are definitely less tournaments, but I think it's kind of the natural progression of some things where you become more efficient at what you do. Like, we're not throwing darts at a map and going to try to run some event at a rink at a place where we don't even know if it's going to fly or not. We used to do that a lot back in the day because it was like, roller hockey was a wild west. But now it's kind of, it's stabilized itself where we know that, at least with my logic, wherever I run a tournament, it's going to be a full tournament because I've done enough of them to know, like, don't bother going to this market. People say they might go, but they're not going to go, and so forth. So I don't know what the future is in terms of 10 years from now. I don't know if we can get back to growing rinks. I know that there are a couple, Nash's putting that one up in Columbus, which place looks beautiful. So good for him for committing to the sport. But I don't know. I thought it was a weird question, and there's no right answer to it. But I just wanted to get your take a little bit on, the state of the sport as you see it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of factors and stuff like that. Like, I think there's 3 factors that have changed the sport since I've been in it. One, ice hockey for us, has changed the sport year round, and other sports too, like lacrosse is way more popular out here now than I had no lacrosse guys back in 2001. Like, everyone plays lacrosse now. I always say the forming of Team Tour USA 87 changed the sport and changed the way people run their teams and how they run their teams. It definitely affected how I've done some of my teams. The first NARCh National I ever won was because pooling West Coast and East Coast kids together, And I always say that, to me, like, Eton changed the sport. Like, just the way he went about going out there and the way he played the game with such creativity and, change the way people play. And that's why now when you go like over the weekend, how many guys did you see try to pick up the puck and do a Michigan? And I absolutely can't stand it. I yell at my kids every time. Like, if you're going to do it in a 2-2 game and it's the top, like, I'm more into that than all of a sudden it's 6-0, everyone go behind the net and try to pick the puck up. Like, I try to explain to the kids when I was little, you're supposed to bury that guy or try to break his arm if they try to do it. Like, it's not done today like that. But, I just think those 3 factors that, to me, have changed the game more than anything else.
No, good answer. Ethan is a legend. I still talk to him almost daily, and wish him the best of luck at Dangle Dojo. And it's cool that he, again, he's another one of those guys where, I don't know, he drank out of the fountain of youth a few years ago, and now he looks as good as he's ever been. So I'm stoked that he got his way back onto Team USA, and he scored a huge goal in State Wars a few years ago, and for his team to win, and he's still one of the best players even at his age and with the family. So good for him, and good call out on that.
Yeah, I remember that goal. Thanks for bringing it up. Excellent job.
Yeah, no problem. Figured you'd like that one. Okay, buddy. Well, we're going to get back on here and do it again in a couple months once NARCh is over. I will go down a wormhole, find a bunch of old footage, and we can talk specifics about championships you won, I'll find some moments to put to that. We'll have a great conversation. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day. You probably got to get to the rink sooner than later now. And I got to run up to San Jose.
Little later. I got a couple hours, but I appreciate you asking me to come on, and thank you very much.
No, thank you, Jay. We'll see you in July.
You got it.
Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed that interview with Jason Muro. Just a couple of closing notes to leave you with. A lot of people have been asking about our Pacific Cup Championships, when that will be. We're proud to announce that's going to be in Escondido again, the end of August. It was a great event last year. Facility's great, and a lot of people, if you're not from the area, you get to come to San Diego. I could think of a worse place to have a great hockey tournament. Another thing, Team USA, very, very excited. We finally announced that team. We will go on Roller Dad next week to discuss players a little bit more specifically and what they bring to the table, just like Roller Dad did with the men's and women's team. So look for that probably next week on the Roller Dad podcast. But we've got a great team, very excited, happy for all of these boys to make this team, and we're going to give it hell in Italy. So look for that episode next week with Roller Dad. Once again, if you are playing in the NARCh finals, remember you have to have matching home and away jerseys. We are going to enforce this. Unfortunately, if you don't, you're going to start a game shorthanded, and we definitely do not want to do that in an event of this magnitude. So make sure you get on the matching jerseys now. Look good, play good. A lot of great suppliers. Unify Gameware is one of them. Maven Hockey, even Alkali. A lot of good places to get jerseys, but you need to get on them now. Very last notice, June 5th is your registration deadline for the NARCh Finals. So if you haven't already got it in, make sure you get it in before June 5th. Once again, we do not accept the registration without payment. So we don't pencil teams in for this event. So if you send it in without a payment, you're not technically in the event. So make sure you get that payment in by June 5th. Very last thing, host hotels. That link is also up here. Get on your host hotels now. They stop the blocks pretty early, so rooms are available now. They probably won't be come June, so book your hotel rooms and get on it. Can't wait to see you at the NARCh Finals. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll see you at the rink.